Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carl Brown. I want to welcome everyone to this university engagement webinar focused on student workforce opportunities. My official title is Staff Director for the Strategic Communication and Outreach branch in the Chemical and Biological Technologies Department at the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, better known as DTRA-CB. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us virtually today. I'm looking forward to a productive meeting, and I hope you all come away with some useful information from the presentations that you're going to see. Here's the path that we're going to follow for today's webinar. I'm going to walk through who we are and what we do at DTRA-CB. Then I'll hand it over to our presenters. We'll begin with Dr. Neil Jensen, who's the Division Chief of the Chemical and Biological Research Center of Excellence at the Defense Threat Reduction Agency. Neil will be followed by Mr. Andy Teague, who is the Chief for Talent Acquisition and Outreach within the DTRA Human Resources team. And then, Andy will be followed by Ms. Karen Felton, who is a Program Manager for the SMART program. And Karen will close out our presentation session. Speakers will take some time at the end of each presentation to answer questions, and we will also wrap up with a final Q&A chat session to give everyone an opportunity to get their questions answered before we conclude. So without further delay, let's get started. So, as I mentioned, I'm Carl Brown. I'm going to provide a broad overview of both the Defense Threat Reduction Agency and a little bit of specific information about the Chemical and Biological Technologies Department. I think I am also controlling the slides. I am also controlling the slides. Okay. So today, I'm going to introduce you to a place in our government where imagination is more important than knowledge. We face tremendous threats, and to defend against these threats, we must innovate. We must imagine chem-bio scenarios and what makes our U.S. warfighters' job easier. Industry, academia, and government all are on the forefront of innovation. What's really, really important is that our government is working with industry and academia to fund and bring innovation to the market. At DTRA, our partnerships with these groups is an imperative for our mission success. The big picture shows that DTRA's mission is to enable DoD and the U.S. government to prepare for and combat weapons of mass destruction and improvised threats, and to ensure nuclear deterrence. As I mentioned, I work in the Chemical and Biological Technologies Department, where we focus on countering the chemical and biological threats in the WMD space by developing new detection devices, medical countermeasures, and integrated early warning systems. For an agency of our size, we have a large global footprint. Our permanent liaison officers are at combatant command centers in the Pentagon around the world. Over 500 integrators are dispersed throughout the field supporting our warfighters, and we have adapted the locations of our regional engagement officers so that we can communicate, integrate, and coordinate all of our activities. We also have a presence in countries with whom we execute science and technology agreements. The DTRA Chemical and Biological Technologies Department is also known as the Joint Science and Technology Office for Chemical and Biological Defense. This is a part of the Integrated Chemical and Biological Defense Program. The role of the Chemical and Biological Defense Program is to improve the biological and chemical defense capabilities of all uniformed services and reduce the threat of biological and chemical terrorism in the United States and abroad. Within the Chemical and Biological Defense Department, the Chemical and Biological Technologies Department, we are leading DoD science and technology to anticipate, defend, and safeguard against chemical and biological threats for the warfighter and the nation. We accomplish our mission by sponsoring the best science and turning ideas into prototypes and capabilities for the warfighter. We have this mission and we conduct the work that we conduct because of the threats we face. I'm going to talk a little bit about recent world events. We've seen the use of chlorine and mustard agent in Iraq and Syria. We've supported outbreak operations in West Africa during the Ebola outbreak, and there have been thousands of legacy chemical weapons found in Iraq over the last decade. And we continue to identify emerging threats that do not conform to international treaty standards that would limit or contain the use of chemical and biological hazards. This is the importance of the work we do in the Chemical and Biological Technologies Department. One of our primary focuses in the department is preparing for surprise. It is necessary to prepare for surprise because we will not know when and where a threat will pop up. We can't know what the surprise will be. We will get surprised, but we will not know where it comes from or in what way it will manifest. Preparing for surprise is a national imperative and a principal focus of our work. So where have we been and what have we been doing? So this timeline shows kind of a span of a decade and some of the work that we have provided, or some of the capabilities we have provided to our nation's warfighters. We've watched a steady increase of use of chemical weapons on a battlefield. I talked about the use of chlorine and mustard gas, and there's been a growth in biotech industry, which leads us to further believe that we cannot have one bug or one drug solutions. We have to focus on broad spectrum capabilities that will address many problems at once. One of the ways that we approach this broad capability development is getting to a place where we're left to cough. I'm going to talk a little bit about what that means. In many instances, law enforcement sometimes talks about pre and post incident, or where we stand and what we know before something happens and where we stand and what we know after it happens. When we talk about left of cough, we're talking about how we detect that something has occurred, how we diagnose it, how we use data to predict ways to counter what has happened, and then develop and test our countermeasures against whatever we anticipate happening, most importantly, before it actually occurs. So most of what I've been talking about is the technical side of how we go about doing the work that we do. I would be remiss if I didn't also point out that almost all of the things that we develop are built on a foundation of sound business practice, and what we're focusing on in our department, one of the things we're focusing on in our department right now is becoming more agile in our business practice, which opens up opportunities in fields that aren't traditionally technologically focused or engineering focused, and rather open to business, contracting, and other practice areas that one might not associate generally with a technology-focused organization. And I'm going to end where I started. I think one of the most exciting things about what happens in our building, one of the things that DTRA can kind of do that many other government agencies don't do, is take advantage of the creativity and the ingenuity of the men and women on our team and take their imagination and their knowledge and turn it into something that makes a difference for the world. Where we work, imagination is more important than knowledge. Having shared that with you all, I am going to now turn the presentation over to Dr. Neil Jensen. Am I moving the slides? I'm not sure if I am supposed to move them or someone else is moving them.
Or maybe I'm supposed to.
There we
go.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, Carl. As you said, my name's Neil Jensen. I'm here representing one of the divisions at the Defense Threat Reduction Agency. Carl talked to you a lot about, and you heard words like acquisition, business practices, management. That's because a lot of what the Defense Threat Reduction Agency does is program management. We send out money to labs to do research, and we acquire. That's why it's called acquisition. We acquire products. Or there is a small part of DTRA, my division, that actually carries out research in the laboratory. We do this in collaboration with a lot of our partners, and that's what I'm going to talk with you about today. First, we're going to talk a little bit just about overview. Mission and vision. It's just words, but it gives you a flavor of what I wanted to talk about today. As I mentioned, we are the research component of the Defense Threat Reduction Agency ChemBio department. So we provide these capabilities to the different DoD labs. I saw some of you are from Aberdeen Proving Ground. You know what I'm talking about. The DoD maintains a bunch of strictly research labs to maintain the capability to carry out research and maintain that capability through any sort of budget issues. Another thing we do in our division is communication between DTRA and these military sites. We need to know what the warfighter needs. We can make something that's nice and fun, but it needs to be useful to the warfighter, to the soldier in the field. So as part of our mission is to talk with them, make sure we know what they need. And finally, the third one is actually a big part. We're very focused on this. We recognize that over time, people are going to retire. We lose a lot of brain power. We need to start bringing in people like yourselves early on, expose you to the Department of Defense research, how we do things, and get you used to it. And many of you will like it and stay. Some of you, it'll be great, but you'll use that knowledge and go off into other parts of the government or into industry, and that's fine too. But our goal through a lot of this is to bring in fairly young students. That's how we're talking to students now, because we hire people out of college and graduate school and get going in the laboratory doing the research. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that research in a minute. The final one, the vision, kind of repeats what I said. We're just providing opportunities, collaborating with the labs, increasing communication. So this again repeats what I've said. We put the scientists, we hire people, put them in the different labs, and these are in a variety of labs, Navy, Air Force, Army, all maintain laboratory capabilities at different places around the U.S. So we often hire people in, they're DTRA employees in many cases, and then they go out to these labs and carry out research. Essentially, they are part of that lab. And the government does quite well. Lots of equipment, a lot of cutting-edge research, get a lot of work done. So fun stuff. Here's, just for your information, the job titles of people that we do hire and have hired. So nothing surprising here, but microbiologists, a lot of bacteria out there, chemists, chemical warfare agents are always a focus. Toxicologists, computational biologists. We've been doing a lot of computational work. In silico work has become a very big focus of the DoD in recent years. Chemical engineers really fit in just about everywhere. The type of projects we do, the projects you're used to seeing in your labs, in the universities that you're at. We've been doing a lot of stem cell work lately. The whole idea is studies on animals are going to go away. It's slowly happening. A lot of the regulations of what you can do with animals as far as research goes is making it harder, and it should be harder. There's no reason to really work with animals unless you have to, and in many cases, stem cells or other cell lines can be used for a lot of this work. Workflows for identifying RNA viruses. That includes the sequencing. That includes developing tests to detect them. When COVID came up, about half of my division is now working on COVID tests. It's an RNA virus. We're doing a lot of sequencing, a lot of the bioinformatics. Where does it come from? Where is it spreading to? How can we develop an assay for it? So we're flexible. When the DoD says our warfighters, our soldiers are starting to get exposed, we need to know more, we jump in and help out with the civilian labs to do and work with them hand in hand. Synthesizing new compounds, I'm just talking about new drugs, new chemicals that can kill viruses and bacteria. DNA sequence in a forward deployed situation, what that means is we got little boxes that you can carry not on the front line, but near it, and you can do sequencing. This is something we've been working on for several years now. I find something, identify it, sequencing, using the web, we can get back access to supercomputers and very quickly get information on what we're working with. And finally, transfer of liquids and powders, very mundane, sounds simple, but how is it, if we have a powder that may be an agent, how is it spread? How can it be spread? Is the envelope going to carry it? Are gloves going to carry it? Is the air going to carry it? All of that, those are the type of things we think of, and we grab information from a wide variety of scientific fields, including fields that all of you were in. We use pretty much every scientific discipline out there. So the opportunities, the jobs are all listed on USA Jobs. The next speaker is going to walk you through USA Jobs. If you haven't seen it, it is the portal for all government jobs. So it's something you want to know about. It's just another way of part of your job search. So next slide is a little bit expanding. In addition to pure research, we do interact a lot. Remember Team CBRNE, that's Chem, Bio, Radiation, Nuclear, and Explosives. Aberdeen Proving Grounds is what APG is in Edgewood, Maryland. Carries on all of those things at one place or another on the post. We concentrate on the CB side of it, Chem Bio. Another thing we participate in is the National Research Council postdocs. Some of you may have heard that. This is a program that pays for a couple of postdocs. We coordinate with the National Academy of Sciences. These postdocs, we are again placed in different labs. Great program, great way to get exposed to the DoD again. All these research labs. We also participate in a lot of STEM programs for those of you that are very interested in the generation after you. We are focused as much as possible on exposing the kids to science, different aspects of it. Down at the bottom, you'll see a little picture saying Smart Science, Math, and Research for Transformation. This is a program that the government participates in where you go to school, it pays for your school, and then you owe the government back however many years you were funded to go through school. Two speakers from now. Ms. Felton will be talking about that program specifically. And it's a good program, and my division participates in it. So, in summary, again, we are focused on getting the next generation of scientists, and that's you. Many of you would like to work in the government, whether it's you have military background, whether it just looks like a good place to be. We work with the different DoD military labs. That includes understanding the mission, why we do what we do. Collaborate with the research scientists at those labs. So we work side by side in the labs. Work communication, S&T, that's science, technology, research. Advanced developer, the people that actually make the products down the road. And finally, represent DTRA in a variety of different DoD labs. So those are the type of opportunities you can find at DTRA and throughout the government, actually. So, but just to give you a flavor of when you hear DoD research, that's the type of research we're talking about. Stuff of interest to a wide variety of people, including stuff that you're doing. All right, that is everything. Carl will tell us if we have time for questions or if we should keep going.
We do have time for questions. There have been several questions popping up in the chat box, although I have to sort through the questions because we have a lot of people telling us about the audio.
Oh, okay.
So Carla, can you help me with that? Sort of sort through where the questions start and where the notices are?
Yes, Carl. Looks like we have a few questions about opportunities being posted on usajobs.gov.
Yep, I see that.
If there are locations for additional resources or websites.
No, Mr. Teague will talk about that further, but the short answer is all government jobs, just about everything is posted on usajobs.gov. That's the place to look. You set up an account, you put in search terms, and if you want, you can get an email every day with the new opportunities. When applying as a Smart Scholar, you're looking for chemists or toxicologists also. Yep, the same things that we talked about there are going to be the same focus for the Smart Scholarship program. Ms. Felton will talk about it further, but there's a whole bunch of opportunities on the website that you can search, and you can find whatever fits your research interests.
Okay. Yep. And then there was a question also about criminal justice and cybersecurity major. Are there any scholarships or programs I am eligible for? Andy, can you weigh in there, or is that something we should save for after your presentation?
Yeah, Carl, I'll go ahead and go over some of that after I take questions during my presentation, if that's okay. And I can, and if people want to do it, individually, I'll answer those questions as well.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to push that question about criminal justice and cybersecurity programs to the next presenter. If you all will just hold on, we'll see if that question gets answered in the remarks. And if not, then we can try to get that question answered during the Q&A once Andy Teague is done with his presentation. Okay, did I miss any, Carla?
Nope, I think you got them. One more. We did have a question about the best way to search for opportunities for postdoc positions. Neil, if you have any suggestions, I know there's the NCR, NRC postdoc options.
Yep, Yeah, the NRC program. If you search NRC Research Associateship or Research Associate, you will pop up a page that is linked to the National Academy of Sciences, and that lists all postdoc opportunities through the NRC program. Other postdoc opportunities will pop up in USA Jobs. They are also posted there. The NRC ones are not government positions. You are hired through the NRC postdoc program. So that's a different type of program, but you're in the same labs. Postdocs through the USA Jobs are all government positions. So those are your two primary places to look.
Okay. So Matt, does that answer your question, or did you have something else in mind?
He said yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. So I think we have all the questions from Neil's section answered that we can answer at this time. Some of those we're pushing over to Andy. But also, folks, if I ended up missing something in the chat trail and we get to the end of all of the presentations, we will do another Q&A on the back end. So please don't hesitate to let us know you asked a question that didn't get answered. You can re-ask it, and we'll try to make sure that we get you an answer, or at least get you a reference that might help answer it. Okay? So if we have no further questions, we're going to shift over to our human resource team and our talent and acquisition lead, Mr. Andy Teague. Andy, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Carl. My name is Andy Teague, Chief for Talent Acquisition and Outreach for the agency, work in the Human Resources Directorate. So in my role, I get to go out and talk to individuals like yourselves, because we're obviously looking for talent to fill the position and requirements that are available within our agency. And I also like to promote the available programs that are out there as well within the federal government, because most of those pertain to our agency as well. So an opportunity to go out and meet a lot of people in these formats, whether it's been virtual or in person. Virtual lately. I was in Hawaii yesterday, and the weather was great. So just to let everybody know that. But I get to talk to people at universities and industry and various partnerships that we have. And the two questions I always get, and that kind of came up in Dr. Jensen's segment, is how do I get in the federal government, and what jobs do you have available? So the easiest way for me to answer that question for folks is I'd like to give them a brief, basic overview of USA Jobs. And one of the first questions I always ask, do you have a USA Jobs profile? Because as Dr. Jensen said, USA Jobs is the official platform for employment opportunities within the federal government. I know you may see opportunities out there that are thrown up on other platforms for jobs, but USA Jobs is the source for you to go look for a federal job. So let me move to the next slide. On this slide, on the right side, you will see the landing page for USA Jobs on the right side. You will see two red buttons on there to say Create Profile. Basically, all you have to do, they've made this interface so user-friendly. You click on that, give them some general basic information about yourself and a personal email, and you have created yourself a profile in USA Jobs. And it also allows you to do a two-way authentication so nobody can access your account but yourself. The great thing about this platform is they improved it immensely over the past 2 years. You have the ability to store up to 5 resumes within this platform. And why is that important? It could be now, or it could be as you advance in your career. You may have different skills, ability, knowledge, education, and you may need more than one resume because you may see different jobs in different fields that you may be eligible for or interested in and you'd like to apply for. So you can store multiple resumes in this format. And the other great thing about this is you can store up to 10 documents to go along with your resume when you're doing the application process. And those can include anything from DD-214s if you're a veteran, research papers, cover letters, things of that nature. Anything that you think would enhance your employment application opportunity, and that way you get a better chance to describe your background, who you are, and things about yourself. So you have the ability to store that stuff within the USA Jobs format. It also makes it very easy when you're applying for a position, because when you go through the process to apply, it will ask you to attach a resume, then additional documents, and then it will carry you out to the agency-specific application process. So that's just dependent on what agency that you happen to be applying for. Another thing for everybody to remember when you're applying within USA Jobs, or for any position for that matter, don't underestimate any experience that you have. That includes volunteer work, student groups, research, internships. It all counts as experience. And also a lot of stuff covers a lot of soft skills that a lot of employers are looking for in hiring managers. So please always include that stuff, because it could be the difference between you and somebody else getting a job, or the difference between the amount of money that you're going to get during your negotiation for your salary. So talked about the search for jobs, search for information. Let me go back one slide real quick. On that landing page, you'll see at the top, it has a keyword search and location search. So you can type pretty much anything in there as far as what you're looking for. It could be police officer, chemist, human resources. As long as you don't misspell it, you should get a return of thousands or maybe hundreds of jobs, depending on how many are out there at the time. And you can do it by location. And within your profile, as Dr. Jensen said, you can set it for email notifications for particular jobs, particular agencies, whatever you want to do. It has a format for you to set it up so you can be alerted anytime something comes available for yourself. So I just wanted to highlight that. So this section is really important for everybody as well. This is still the homepage of USA Jobs if we would have just scrolled down. These are the hiring paths within the federal government, all these different color-coded sections on here. So everybody has a category that they fall in, or they may have many categories that they fall in. The majority of you are probably in the open to public and student and recent graduate sections. So if you click on those sections, it will tell your eligibility in those particular platforms, and also give you all the available programs and opportunities that are offered to you or that you may be eligible for. So always go check that out. And actually, it'll link you to other things as far as degrees that you may have or experience you may have. And it'll actually help you link to jobs that are already out there in USA Jobs. So there's various ways to search for employment opportunities on the USA Jobs platform. And there also may be other folks in the audience here. You may be an individual with disabilities. You may be a veteran. So always go check those things out, because you never know what you may be missing out on if you don't go and see what your actual eligibility is within the USA Jobs system. Because when you go out and pull up a job ad on USA Jobs, they all have categories of people that are and who is eligible to apply for that position. So it's extremely important to read through the job ad each and every time that you have one, because there's different requirements for every job, different documents needed for every job. So just please be sure that you read through those things. So on the left side of this slide, you'll see that basically the process cradle to grave in USA Jobs. Create your USA Jobs profile all the way down to where you get a job offer. Just to let you know, it's not the quickest process in the world, but the standard is supposed to be somewhere around 80 days for that process. Give or take, it could be longer, it could be shorter. It's all dependent upon the agency and what they happen to be doing as far as their employment opportunities are concerned. So don't get discouraged, but normally you should hear something within about 4 weeks on whether or not you made a certification or if you've been selected to come in and do an interview.
Hey, Andy, can I jump in here?
Yes. Sure, go ahead.
All right, it'll save me some time at the end. So what Andy just said is really important, but also dependent upon hiring managers and organization representatives who have to go into a system and update status. And kind of like email, some people are better at this than others. And so I think it's really important for us to share with you that you may not always get feedback or notifications. That isn't a fallacy of the system so much as a fallacy of the people who make the system work. But most importantly, don't allow that to frustrate you. One of the most important parts of applying for a federal position is persistence. Keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. That's what I got, Andy. Thanks.
Perfect. I was going to go over that next, but that's good. I'm glad you brought that up. And when you do that, make sure you keep records, print it out, however you need to do it. The USA Jobs will do that for you, but when you get a phone call from somebody talking about a position that they would like to interview for, you'd like to have that information on hand so you know who you're talking to and what job you applied for, because there are times people apply for 10, 15, 20 jobs at a time, and it's better if you can keep track of that information when you're talking to the person that may be potentially hiring you. So another thing I'd like to say is that do some research on the places that you're applying for. Just have a little general information about it, because once you get into the interview process, it's nice to be able to ask questions about the particular agency that you're working in, the culture, things of that nature, because hiring managers, supervisors like to hear that kind of thing. And it gives you an opportunity to get to know where you're going to be working at and who the people you're going to be working at. So, you know, ask them questions as well when you interview. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I'll hit on something. Another question I always get is about the security clearance process. Not all federal jobs have a security clearance. We do a DTRA. Everybody has to have a minimum of secret or above to work within DTRA. That process is supposed to generally take from 1 to 4 months for a secret and 4 to 8 months for a top secret. But the reality is it is normally longer because the investigators have heavy caseloads. So I always get that question too, why does it take so long? It's just a lot of people trying to get their background checks done and things of that nature, and it takes the investigators quite a while to get that information through the system. So there is no definite timetable, but that's just a rough estimate of how long it would take to get a clearance. On this slide, you'll see the pathways for students and recent graduates to federal careers, and that's exactly what it says. With the pathways programs, you'll see there's internships, recent graduates program, and the PMF, the Presidential Management Fellows program. These are also advertised within USA Jobs. You can type it in by internships, recent graduates, and you'll see that if you go back to the hiring path piece and click on that application, it will take you to jobs that fall within those categories. And then you also see if you're that you're eligible for those programs. The great thing about some of those programs, it helps you get a good sense of what it's like to work in the federal government, networking opportunities, and sometimes, depending upon the position, you actually might be able to get a security clearance in the process as well. So that's another way to go about that. I just wanted to, as far as the internship program goes, we normally advertise that at DTRA between the December and January timeframe. Those are paid internships, and they are varied backgrounds. And it just depends upon each director that we have of who they're looking for to bring in, what type of backgrounds they're looking for. So I don't have any definite about what positions those will look like in December or January. But this past year, unfortunately, we had to cancel due to COVID, but we're looking to move that back out forward, rolling into 2021. Said there's a recent grads program and the PMF program. Please go out and check those things out, see if you may be interested in those. The PMF program is a great program. It's the premier leadership program for the federal government for people with advanced degrees. So check that out to see if that might be some interest to you. And as it says, today is actually the opening day for the application process for the PMF applications. And it goes for about 2 weeks. Some of the other special hiring authorities and programs we have, the WRP, Workforce Recruitment, Schedule A Hiring Authority. We actually have a person in DTRA that is our program manager for that. So those are for folks with disabilities. So again, that is also out on the hiring task piece. So please go out there and check that out. If you feel that you may fall into that category, that is another way for yourself to get into the federal government outside the normal chains of the USA Jobs hiring process. And at the end here, we have veterans, obviously. There are various veteran programs and ways to come in as a veteran to into the federal government. Again, if you just click on those in the hiring path piece of USA Jobs, it will give you information on all those programs, the eligibility criteria, and like I said, some of you may have 4 or 5 different pieces of criteria that, you know, in different ways you can get into the federal government. So please check those out. And one last thing I'll put on there is about the INSEP program. That's Security Education Program. That's for individuals with language studies. So if you have a language background, that's another great program to take a look at. And I believe that's insep.gov for that information on that program. And if we have time to take questions, I'll do that now or wait till we're finished. And thank you for your time.
We do have a few minutes for questions.
Okay.
Totally jealous. Seems like you and Neil garnered way more interest with your presentations than I did. However, we won't keep score today. How about that? So I'm scrolling up to the top so I can try to get as many of these in as I can. So there's a question about a limit to the number of positions you can apply to at one time.
No.
Is there a limit? Yeah, okay. And then, has hiring been affected by the pandemic, and if so, when should more listings be posted or expected? It seems like USA Jobs hasn't had many postings lately.
I would say, overall, talking to partners within the DoD, it's not only just a pandemic, but it's the changeover in fiscal year. So every year, the fiscal year ends on 30 September for all federal government agencies. So you will see a lag in jobs that are posted in USA Jobs, but they generally pick up once budgets are approved and processed, and then you'll generally see about around the end of October, 1st November, the jobs start picking back up in USA Jobs.
Okay. Is there a specific subset of jobs that offer student loan repayment assistance, or does this apply to all government jobs?
There are programs that agencies can use for that. It is dependent upon the agency and if they would like to exercise that option, but that option is available to some agencies. And if you look in some of the job ads, that will actually be located in some of the job ads that they are offering that assistance.
Okay. Will internships be found on USA Jobs or Zintellect through ORI?
USA Jobs. USA Jobs.
Okay.
I guess I can't
Carl?
stop them.
Hold on. I think they were asking about ORIs on that one.
Oh, okay.
No, so it's an or. Are they found on USA Jobs or Zintellect through ORIs? And I think Andy answered correctly that the answer is USA Jobs. There may be some other sites, Zintellect could be one of them, that have links to positions because they know that that position is out there. But the government isn't hiring or selecting for interview from a Zintellect site. They're selecting those folks from USA Jobs.
Yes, definitely, Carl. Can't emphasize it enough. USA Jobs is the official platform for positions within the federal government.
So then the next one says, I assume there's no option for non-U.S. citizens currently doing a PhD with a F1 visa. Yeah, so you want to tackle that, Andy?
Well, that's why I said go back out to the hiring task force in USA Jobs, because there are programs available to everyone out there. You just have to kind of know, you have to do a little research to find out what your eligibility is, because we have so many different varied backgrounds of individuals. Everybody has a different source of eligibility about them. So I would encourage you to go out there and look. If you look, and I believe if you click on the green section in the hiring pass, that would be the best bet. Go back to that real quick. I'm sorry. Actually, go up to the blue section on the open to the public and check that out and start right there.
Right. Also, job announcements include an eligibility statement. So you can find in every announcement who is eligible to apply for that position.
That's correct. Sometimes you'll see 5 or 6 in there. Yeah.
Correct. Right. So you might see something that says U.S. citizens and, or U.S. citizens only. So be thoughtful about that also. Almost all the information that a person needs can be found in the actual job announcement. So I would expect questions about eligibility to be more centric to a specific announcement as opposed to a general I'm eligible or not eligible. Okay, so we're getting down here to the bottom. Intern timelines, Andy. Is the Pathways internship posted around the December-January time frame?
Yes, it is. And normally that will run till about the beginning or mid-March for the application process.
Okay, so how about postings that require you to become a member of the military? How does that work? I am not sure what that means.
Well, actually, I can answer that question. There are National Guard positions that are found in USA Jobs. So, yes, you have to be a member of the National Guard to apply for those positions. And it states, again, like Carl said, the eligibility criteria is within the ad, and it tells you in it that you must be a member of the National Guard when you see those job postings. But those, yes, those are the only military ones that you will see within USA Jobs.
So then the last question, I think is an interesting one. I have a health condition that's forcing me to work remotely. Is this problematic for current hiring processes, or are there opportunities? And we'll make that the last question.
Okay. Yes. Again, that's one of those things you would have to work out with your hiring manager and your supervisor, and that's what we call telework in the federal government. So if you're trying to work remotely or work from home, so that's one of those work-life balance things that we have. So yes, you would have to work that out with your employer, whether or not that would be. Some positions don't allow for that. Also, just depending upon what the position is too, because there are some positions that remote work cannot be done in. So just to let people know that as well. And if you look inside a job ad, usually at the very bottom somewhere, it'll say telework eligible on the position. So you'll know that as well. So pretty like I was trying to say earlier, anything that you need to know in USA Jobs or the job ad is there, because they post that stuff in every piece of it. That's why I said it's very important to read through those job ads, not only for the eligibility, the duty description, what you'll be doing. Because you also, when you're doing a resume, you want to try to marry up your resume to some of the stuff that's in the job ad as well. That will benefit you greatly.
Yeah, so
I'm sorry,
I'd
Carl,
like to I was just going to piggyback on that last comment. I think that's perhaps something that we should foot stomp. Most of us have kind of a generic or prepared resume. I would encourage everyone who's applying for a federal position to get your arms around the idea that you have to tailor your resume to every announcement. if you aren't doing that, you are probably limiting your potential for being selected for any given position. If you use the same resume for 5 jobs, you're wrong. One of the things that happens with job applications is we're looking at how your resume fits for a specific position, not generally how does your resume describe your experiences. And so if you have a resume, for example, that fits for one position, it is very possible that that resume will not fit for a completely different announcement. For example, if DTRA has an announcement for a chemist and the Environmental Protection Agency has an announcement for a chemist, your resume will likely not work for both of those positions in a general form. So be prepared to tailor your resume to the announcement for which you are applying. And if I'm messing that up, Andy, please fix it. But I think that's really important for folks to understand.
That's extremely important. Like I said up front, was with the five slots for a resume, you can tailor with the 5 resumes just to keep on hand in there, but always go back and tinker with those resumes, like Carl just said, because it is vitally important to match that stuff up to the particular job that you're applying for.
Okay, and then there's one more question, and this person has asked it like 3 times or said, I'm not sure if it posted. So there's a question about clearances. Does clearance to work with BSAT Tier 1 at a university qualify as a security clearance? If so, what level?
Quick answer, no.
Yeah, I think that's right. So, yeah,
correct.
The way you get a security clearance is by having an investigation done by OPM and having an adjudication that determines your eligibility for whatever level you're applying for. If you don't have that, then you don't have a clearance.
Hey, Carl?
Yes, sir.
I wanted to jump in on clearances for a little bit, besides BSAT. Just to be clear for everybody, when we say a clearance is required, you don't have to have a security clearance to apply for the job. That's correct. Not, you have to be eligible for it. So if there's something in your background that makes you ineligible, be aware, but you don't have to have it. When you apply, if you're selected, we, DTRA, or whoever in the government sponsors you to go through the clearance process. So don't stop correct. Just because you don't have a clearance in hand.
Thank you, Neil. That was helpful. Okay, so we are going to wrap up Mr. Teague's presentation and move to the next agenda item. Our next presenter is Ms. Karen Felton, who's going to talk to us about the Science, Mathematics, and Research for Transformation Scholarship Program. Ms. Felton, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, everyone, so much. Good afternoon, everyone. As has already been mentioned, my name is Karen Felton. I'm the program manager for the SMART Scholarship for Service program. I'm excited to talk to you this afternoon to share with you a program overview, how you are eligible, our benefits, and what our program does to support the warfighter. So first and foremost, the goal of the SMART program is to increase the Department of Defense workforce with highly skilled STEM scholars and students like yourself who are pursuing disciplines that are critical to Department of Defense and national security. We are, in effect, a pipeline where we recruit and we want to enhance your skills and technical abilities and provide you with a career in Department of Defense that allows you to use your academic and STEM pursuits in support of the mission for our components and services. That would be Navy, Marine Corps, Army, Air Force, and other DOD. The SMART program makes awards to students who are pursuing bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees. And that award is a minimum of 1.5 years to a maximum of 5 years. What happens is that after you obtain your degree, you have a service commitment that you will meet at the DOD facility that selects you, and that is a 1-for-1. What that basically means is that for every year of your award, that's the same time of your service commitment. I want to brag on SMART a little bit. Our stats here before you, we are a program that was a pilot program started in 2005, and since 2006, which was our first year, we have awarded over 3,000 scholarships. We have a 91% success rate of our scholars completing their service agreement, and we have sponsoring facilities, laboratories, and agencies, over 200 of them across the United States, representing 266 universities and colleges, and to date we have graduated over 2,000 scholars. I think that is a remarkable statistic, and I'm very proud of our program. To the right, you see a pie chart that lists our top 3 disciplines: electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and computer science, computer and computational sciences and engineering, and then of course in the light green, the other disciplines. I'd also like to interject here that SMART also targets students that are interested in modernization priorities in support of the National Defense Strategy. So if you're not familiar with what that is, feel free to Google it. There are approximately 11 modernization priorities to include AI, machine learning, biotechnology, cyber, microelectronics, and hypersonics, just to name a few. So please also keep that in mind. This chart just basically shows you where our laboratories and our sponsoring facilities are across the United States, and it breaks them down into the categories. I won't read those to you. What I really want you to understand is that our sponsoring facilities are, they actually perform the selection for our scholars. The program does not assign you to a sponsoring facility, but the sponsoring facility selects from a pool of applicants based on their prospective mission requirements. So I'm going to put a plug here to our website. So if you would like to visit our website, www.smartscholarship.org, you can go and search by component or service. That would be Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Army, and look for their specific mission, look for the STEM field, whether you're electrical, chemical, cyber, etc. Please look and see what sponsoring facility you may be interested in, what their mission set in. As said before, do your research and see if there is a match between what you would like to pursue in your education and what you're interested in, and how that matches up with the DoD mission at that specific facility. So here we are at the eligibility requirements. So first of all, you must be a U.S. citizen, 18 years of age or older, have a minimum cumulative GPA of 3.0, and be pursuing one of our 21 approved STEM disciplines. I don't have a list for you, but again, I've given you the website. Again, www.smartscholarship.org. You can find those underneath the About tab. And then also the ability to maintain a security clearance at a minimum a secret. You've heard that mentioned before by the previous presenters. Ability to complete a summer internship. Our internships are within a minimum of 8 weeks, maximum of 12. And then at the conclusion of your degree, be willing to accept a position with the DoD, and that would be with the sponsoring facility that has selected you. And your commitment, as I stated before, is a minimum of 1.5 years. That is by design so that all of our scholars are able to participate in an internship where that gives you real-world experience. You actually are able to work with the engineering leadership, understand the mission, understand the environment and the culture, and be able to contribute in the most effective way. Next slide, we have our scholar benefits. So as I started, scholarship for service. So you know automatically the first benefit is that we pay your tuition. We pay full tuition and fees up to 5 years to the school, to the accredited college and university of your choosing. We have an annual stipend from $25,000 up to $38,000 that is paid monthly to our scholars. Again, mentioning summer internships, that's another benefit at a DoD facility, and the average time frame for our scholars is 10 weeks. What better way to understand how you can contribute not just to the mission of the Department of Defense, but how you can use the technology, the innovation, and as my friend said before, the creativity to enhance and further an aspect of your STEM career by providing technology, systems, and equipment in the hands of our men and women, the warfighter. And further on, we provide book and health insurance allowances and an experienced mentor at a DoD facility. I'm going to pause here for a second because I believe mentorship is extremely important in our program. All of us have had coaches, friends, mentors who have been a part of our development, and we want that same thing for you. We want you to be exposed to someone who is currently working in your field, who understands the mission, who's able to help you with your work, help you with your project, and be available to you to answer any questions that you have. And then finally, another benefit is that you have guaranteed employment at the conclusion of your degree pursuit. All right, security clearance eligibility. I won't spend a lot of time on this slide, but I would like for you all to review the bullets. These are eligibility characteristics that really play a part in you obtaining your security clearance. I want to point out under the drug use and abuse bullet that federal laws and regulations are what we are in compliance with, not state laws. So the key takeaway on this slide is make good decisions and think about the decisions that you make such that they will not hinder you from being able to obtain a security clearance in the future. And here I want to just go over briefly the life cycle of the scholars. We have engage, educate, employ, and retain. So the engagement piece starts when you receive the award, you are oriented in the program online, and you actually have the opportunity to participate in a site visit at the sponsoring facility that selects you. We're in an age now, as you can see, we're virtual, so I'm talking to you across the keyboard. So we have the opportunity to acclimate our scholars virtually as well as in person. You also get to meet your points of contact, engineering leads, your technical leads, HR, and get to know the facility and the environment just a little bit better. The next phase is educate. Here is where you are in your academic pursuit full time. You are pursuing your degree, whether you're a sophomore, obtaining a master's degree, or obtaining a doctoral degree. The next step is employ. So you have obtained your degree, and you are now at the phase where you are starting your service agreement and commitment with your sponsoring facility as a full-time employee. And again, I'll just reiterate, for every year of your scholarship award, you serve a year under that service commitment with your sponsoring facility. And then last but definitely not least is retain. After you complete your service commitment, you continue with your career at your DoD facility, where you grow, where you develop, and hopefully end up contributing to the mission of your service or component. In addition to that, you can still contribute to SMART. We have an ambassador program that promotes networking with other scholars. You can also become a member of the SMART Scholar Steering Committee, where you can participate in peer mentorship, and you can serve as an evaluation panelist during the application cycle to review applications for the next cohort. So again, this is where you begin to not only serve our nation, but you can also pay it forward as well within the SMART program. And as I've talked about the program, here is where we put the faces of our scholars. So we have a few success stories here. Ms. Sarah Baisley, Ms. Jocelyn Coleman, and Mr. Brandon McGee. I won't go into detail about their specific projects, but I do want you to actually see that we have several examples of scholars that are now working within the DoD. They have successful careers, and more importantly, in each one of their narratives, they talk about giving back not only to their current environment in the workforce, but they give back into the STEM field by serving as mentors, by participating in outreach events that support our military-connected students, programs like FIRST Robotics, Girls STEM, etc. And so this is really important because we just don't want to develop your intellect, and we definitely champion innovation, but we want you to be a part of the leadership for Department of Defense and Acquisition that's leading the way, growing other professionals, and serving as mentors and examples to others. Last but not least, on our next slide is how can you connect with us? I've already mentioned, as someone mentioned before, a foot stomp with our website, www.smartscholarship.org. We can also be found on social media. We have a strong web presence on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. So please join us. Please connect with us. We actually tweet and provide stories on our scholars so that you can see how our Phase 3 scholars are doing, the research they're participating in, how the SMART program has been of value to them, and what they're learning, so that you don't just take my word for it. You can hear it exactly from those that have been through the program. To talk about upcoming opportunities, as I mentioned before, if I haven't, we are in the middle of our application cycle. So the application season for the SMART program opened August 1, and it closes on December 1. So we're right in the middle. And you have an opportunity out there, if you are in academia or if you are a DoD professional, to serve as a panelist that will review applications. You can register to participate as a panelist on our website. Please register by October 30th. That just, again, is another way of paying it forward, investing in our program, and making sure that we keep a steady pipeline of STEM professionals that serve the DoD civilian workforce. And subject to your questions, that concludes my presentation.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you good, Carl, to go with questions?
So I do need you to help me with questions because my screen is kind of frozen. So let's go ahead and get through questions. We have time for them, and then we can go from there.
Okay. All right. Karen, we have some questions. First one up is, how can we find out which current ongoing research is going on at the facilities of interest to help us tailor our SMART applications?
Excellent question. What I would like for you to do is go to www.smartscholarship.org and do a search under sponsoring facilities. There will be a pull down, and you will also see a listing where you can search by state, search by service, and you'll see a map, of the United States with a lot of tick marks on it. Each tick mark is color-coded by service, so Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and other DoD, and you can click on the tick mark that I'm going to call it, and you can actually see a list of the facilities in a specific area. You can also search by discipline, but when you search by component, you will have a link that goes directly to their website. Hopefully their websites are current, but it'll have information about their mission, project, what they're working on, and how you can become better acquainted with what exactly they do, the technology, etc.
Okay, I have another question about, in the past, how often were doctoral candidates selected for SMART scholarships?
We select several doctoral candidates. I don't have a metric in front of me. I can provide that information to you. We have another website where you can email smart@smartscholarship.org. If you email me that question, I can get you specific details, but we do accept PhD and doctoral scholars into our program. It's approximately 25% of our scholars.
Okay, another question we have is, I've applied for SMART program for the past 2 years and made it to the semifinal stage each time, but nothing further. Is there anything you can recommend to make myself a more competitive candidate?
All right, well, first and foremost, I'm going to give you kudos for continuing to apply. Please don't stop. One of the aspects of presenting a solid application is having a clear understanding of how your academic work, your research, or your STEM interests will support the Department of Defense. So there is, in the application process, a writing sample where you have the opportunity to tell your story, to share how you see yourself impacting DoD. Continue to do that. Also, any experiences that you have or work experiences either at a lab or projects in the interim of the years that you've applied, please update that. Talk about how you have worked and how you've led projects. Talk about how you've impacted or moved the needle in an area of your discipline. And those will definitely enhance your application for the evaluator.
Hey, Karen, can I jump in here?
Jump away.
Go for it.
Okay. So I think it's a really useful question beyond selectability. One of the things, I mentor a lot of folks, and one of the things I try to get people to understand is not being selected for a competitive program isn't always about you or something that you aren't doing. And it's really difficult to get your arms around that. It requires a little bit of humility, but it is necessary. The reason I point this out is because sometimes the program isn't not picking you because of something you haven't done, but because there are applicants that are more qualified, or better positioned because of a discipline. For example, we just happen to have more space for engineers and fewer biochemists. And so no matter how good your application is, if we can only pick one biochemist and 5 engineers, your opportunities for selection are going to be more limited. They just are. And so that isn't so much a reflection of you as a candidate, but more a reflection of what was available to be selected in the first place. And the reason I point this out is because I didn't talk much about my biography. I spent 24 years in the Navy. I was a naval officer, but I was enlisted for 9 years before I got picked. And I got picked on my 4th application. And the first 3 times I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong and why I wasn't getting picked. And after I got commissioned, I got an opportunity to serve on a selection panel. And I got to read every service record of every person who was being considered. And one of the people we picked in the year that I was on the panel was a young man who was a Navy SEAL who during the first desert storm was out in the desert on his own putting lasers on targets for Air Force bombers. He was basically eating bugs and sleeping in a tent in the desert by himself while I was on a Navy ship, sleeping in my bed every night and eating hot meals. That was my competition the year that I didn't get picked, right? And so the whole time that I was trying to figure out what I was doing wrong or what my application lacked, the fact of the matter was there were just some people who were doing stuff that was more relevant to the Navy than what I was doing. So the problem wasn't with me. I'm pointing that out just to get people to continue to apply and not give up, because there isn't always something wrong with you. Please keep that in mind. That's it.
Okay. We have a few more questions we'll take right now, and then we'll move to the open Q&A. Let's see. We have one. If you are a student seeking to pursue medical school after graduate school, do we qualify for the SMART program?
I am so sorry, but there is background noise, and I did not hear the question. Can you repeat the question, please?
I'll repeat the question. Okay.
Okay.
If you are a student seeking to pursue medical school after graduate school, do we qualify for the SMART program?
Currently, SMART does not fund medical degrees. So that would be no.
Okay. Up next, we have how many times can you apply?
You can apply as many times as you are able, as long as you are compliant with the eligibility requirements and are able to serve a minimum of 1.5 years.
Okay, and should I submit my CV or resume with my application?
I would honestly say it depends. I believe most of our doctoral degrees, those pursuing doctoral degrees may present their CV. It depends on your area of research, what you've done. So I think that's a personal decision.
Okay, and then we have one up that says, is it possible to apply to the SMART program at the same time as applying to graduate school, or require that someone has already begun their studies?
No, you actually can apply to the SMART program and not have received word or know which school that you're going to. Yes, you can.
Okay, and then can you tell everyone again when the deadline for the SMART Scholars Program is?
I absolutely can. The application portal opened on August 1st and it closes on December 1st of this year.
Okay, and then we will answer one more question under this section and then we'll move to the open Q&A. So this is specific to a degree question. Does SMART fund data analytics degrees?
Yes, we do. I didn't pull up the disciplines before, but I will say this for others that may be considering. If you are pursuing a degree or an area of study that is not specifically outlined in the 21 disciplines, please don't let that deter you from applying. For example, statistics is not in the list of 21 the 21 approved disciplines. However, it does fall under mathematics. So yes, you can still apply if your degree pursuit does not match completely with one that is listed on the website.
Okay, so we'll capture the questions that haven't been answered, and then we're going to move to the open Q&A because I believe there were some questions for Mr. Teague that we didn't get answered, and then we'll run back to some of the SMART program questions. I think first up, this is for you, Andy. Back to positions at DTRA. My major is criminal justice, cybersecurity. Are there any scholarships or programs I'm eligible for?
Well, as far as scholarships and programs, I would encourage you to go out to the recent grads and student section of USA Jobs. We don't actually do scholarships within the agency, but there are programs available to folks that are looking to come into the federal government.
Okay, here's another question. Are there opportunities for students who are in co-op programs and would be studying the same time they are working?
If they could work it.
Oh.
I'll hand it off to either Andy or Karen on.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know if that was directed toward me. The answer is yes for us.
Okay, up next. I have a question on a specific major. So my specialty is data. Are there any internships opportunities for this field? Karen, you may be able to answer that or refer them to the SMART program
so if I could,
website.
Sure. The question was they're pursuing a field called data, and they're wondering if they can apply?
Yes.
I want to make sure. Okay. I will use the same answer as before. A lot of the degrees that are out now are somewhat unique, and so I would encourage you to apply still.
Can I jump in there also? So for folks who are applying for programs in the federal government, I would encourage you to always look for ways to be included and not excluded. So as Karen kind of pointed out, if your field is data and you can't find data on a scholarship list, start looking for things that are related to data, right? But it's not possible in today's world to list all the possible elements and domains that might be applicable to someone's degree. And so you have to look for places where you fit as opposed to looking for the place that's an exact match. And if Karen, Andy, if I'm messing that up, please set me straight. But that's how I kind of talk to the folks I mentor.
Well, let me
Carl,
say this.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The requirements on our website are listed there. The eligibility requirements, the 21 disciplines. As I said before, there is not going to be a one-for-one. And I think the previous question about how can I understand what the mission set is, we specifically provide that information so that you know what our components, our services, what the labs, what the facilities are working on. And I'm not saying that you have to change streams in order to line up with one of them, but I guarantee that if you pursue your interest and what you are personally interested in, what you want to support and how you want to contribute, there will be a service or an agency out there that is doing work or may need someone like you who would like to pursue that area of technology in order to accomplish a mission. So definitely do your homework and do your research, and all of that information is contained on our website for you.
Okay, we have a question related to DTRA. Does the DTRA accept unsolicited contracts, grants, or partnerships if there are no current open? Okay, this is more of a BAA type question. So we'll probably...
Carla, could you read it again, please?
It's referring to BAAs, Carl, and contracts and grant partnerships. So a bit unrelated to this, if you want to take it.
I mean, I didn't hear the first part of the question. Does DTRA accept? That's how then it got blurry.
Does DTRA accept unsolicited contracts if there are no current open relevant BAAs?
Okay, so I'm going to ask Neil to help me out here, but there's some kind of mixed metaphors there. So we don't accept unsolicited contracts because a contract is an agreement between the government and another entity. We do accept unsolicited proposals, but not every unsolicited proposal results in an agreement with the government. And so the way we prefer to get unsolicited proposals is through one of the currently announced open BAAs. What an open broad agency announcement is basically submit any topic. And so if you have something that we haven't expressly asked for but think the government would benefit from, the best way to get that into the system and have it considered is through an open broad agency announcement. So Neil, you want to jump in there with something else?
Just a little expanding. If they may be asking for a place to send a white paper. They've got a research idea that they've, you can send it in. The best way is just to look at the BAA and try to figure out a place that it might fit and then send to the email address listed for that topic area. So, but yes, as Carl said, there are ways of getting things in there, but we don't solicited contracts / whatever. It gets a little squishy. But it depends on what the flavor of the question is. When in doubt, just like with USA Jobs, when in doubt, try to look at the positive and try to figure out a way it fits and go with that.
Okay. Next up, Andy, I think this is going to go to you. Where would you refer recent PhD graduates in emerging infectious disease to look for positions in collaboration with DTRA?
Again, I don't think we can say enough out on USA Jobs. and like Carl said, make yourself inclusive in the process and don't exclude yourself. Another important thing for folks to know too, there are a lot of degrees out there right now, artificial intelligence and the data sciences and things that the federal government hasn't caught up with as far as job series yet. So we are still looking for those type of individuals to come into the federal government and to the digital workspace. I'm actually in a working group to bring in folks that have AI backgrounds. So you may not see those actually out there in USA Jobs specifically, but you may see those under program manager jobs and things of that nature. So type those things in the keyword search, and you should definitely get a return, because hiring managers are trying to find unique ways to bring those individuals into the workspace.
Okay. Up next, this was touched on from someone else, but as I am in the UK, to apply for DoD teacher positions is the best way to find a job through USA Jobs to find suitable international eligibility.
You broke up a little. What was that question? Can you repeat that question? You broke up there. I didn't hear all of it.
There was this was touched on earlier, but as I am in the UK, to apply for a DoD teacher position is the best way to find a job through USA Jobs to find suitable international eligibility.
Yes. Yeah, all the eligibility requirements are in USA Jobs. And like I said, there are so many different individuals, so many different specifics about their backgrounds. You actually have to go out there and research what your specific eligibility is. You may be eligible in one category or multiple categories, so it's the best thing for you to do is actually go out there and research it and to see what opportunities are available for you and what you're eligible for. And actually only you will know, because you will know based on the information that you'll see out on USA Jobs.
So I would also add, Carla, that one of the search elements in USA Jobs is geography, and it's global geography, not local geography or U.S. geography, meaning you can find a U.S. government job anywhere in the world on USA Jobs. And so folks should think about that in terms of limiters, right? So it may be that if you're willing to work in Somalia, there might be a job for you there. If you're interested in international employment and you want to work in Azerbaijan, there might be a job for you there. And so not only looking for jobs in your field of expertise, but your field of expertise and also how it might relate to what we're looking for in the government any place in the world. Out.
Okay, I think we have time for just a few more questions. This one's directed to you, Karen. Does SMART scholarship pay the tuition in full, or does it depend on parents' family income?
The SMART Scholarship for Service program pays for tuition in full, and it has nothing to do with your parent status or anything of that nature.
Okay. I do have a few admin notes with folks online. The presentations and files are available for download from the Files Download pod in the lower right corner of the screen. And we also have helpful web links that are available in the helpful web links pod that you can click on and browse. And then let me get a couple other questions in. So here's one. There are USA Jobs listings that say they require security clearance at the time of application. You're a good candidate for the position. Should we still apply? Andy, if you could help us out on that.
I apologize. You keep breaking up. Could you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
There are USA Job listings that say they require a security clearance at the time of application. You're a good candidate for the position. Should we still apply? think
I
they're
would
asking
always
if they
apply.
don't. Okay.
I would always still apply.
Yeah.
Don't ever exclude yourself out of anything. Just still always apply, because you may have some skill that somebody's actually looking for that they cannot find, and they will be willing to work with you. Not saying that that'll actually happen, but I will never ever discourage anybody from applying for a position.
Yep. So I will just remind everyone about that eligibility block in every announcement. My bet, if you go back and look at that specific announcement that's being referenced, if you look at the eligibility, if we're requiring a person to already have a clearance, that announcement is probably only open to government employees. I can't imagine that there's an announcement that's requiring a person to have a security clearance and it's open to all citizens, because those two things are incompatible.
Okay, I have another question. This is about interviews. Andy, I might need your help on this. Is there a way to set up informational interviews?
Are you talking as far as just to do a practice interview, or is that what the individual is looking for?
Yeah, let's go in that direction. I don't have any other details, but they were asked during your session.
Yeah, you can always do that. You can reach out to any agency through their public affairs component, and they can hook you up with somebody with the background that you have, and to sort of mentor you in that field, and give you information as far as the interview process for that particular area. Not every agency does it. Some agencies do. I talked to a lot of the folks in the Department of Defense. They do that stuff for individuals to help them move forward, especially students. So yeah, I would encourage you to contact the public affairs component at the agency that you're interested in to do that.
Okay, and there is a question about the session being recorded. Yes, we are recording the session, and we will email the location of the recording out to those registered and attending today's session.
Hey, Aaron, this is Andy. Again, can I jump in on something real quick that Carl just spoke about the clearance portion?
Go for it.
So I just pulled up a random job ad here that has a clearance requirement. So in the requirements section, it says must be able to obtain and maintain a top secret security clearance. It's not that you have to have, like Carl said, it's not that you have to have and this is open to the public out there on USA Jobs, not that you have to have a top secret applying for the position. You have to be able to obtain a top secret clearance once you have employment with that particular agency.
Okay, and let me go through one last question here. This is probably geared towards you, Karen. My graduation date is set to be May of 2020. Am I still eligible to apply?
It depends if that person is pursuing another degree. So this is a scholarship for service program, so you would need to be in degree pursuit after your graduation.
Okay, and then this is for Andy and Karen. It's kind of geared towards DTRA and DTRA applications through the SMART program. So how can we know which opportunities or field of study that DTRA is looking for when they're looking through SMART scholarship applications?
Karen, did you want to go ahead and take that?
I'm trying to understand the question. So if I understand it correctly, how will they know what DTRA is looking for as they apply to the SMART program? Is that what I understand?
Yes, that's how it's asked.
Okay. Well, from the SMART program perspective, when you apply, all applicants are asked for their first, second, and third choice. As I mentioned before, there's a pull-down menu that covers all of the component labs and facilities listed by discipline, listed by location. So if you specifically are interested in DTRA, because they are a sponsoring facility, they will be on our website, and you can select that as one of your top three, one of your three, not top, but one of your three choices. And then I'm not sure, DTRA will have to answer as the selecting facility what they look for and how they go through their process for looking at applicants that might be interested in their facility. Over to you.
Andy, anything to add?
Well, I say that's up to each individual directorate within the agency to make that determination on who they want to bring on board and what they're particularly looking for. And when we get the information for the scholars, we send out a rough estimate of what we're looking for as far as individuals and what backgrounds. And then we get a list back, I believe it was in April, if I'm correct, Karen, and we listed names and where everybody ranked DTRA on the form. And then we selected from that list. And as I said, the directorates and the hiring managers worked on that. I was not involved in that process because it's a directorate responsibility for that and who they're going to be bringing into the directorate to do that work. So that's the best answer I could really give on that.
Okay, and then there's a follow-up question about the three choices, Karen. It says, outside of our three choices, will our applications be sent to other facilities as well?
So to best describe it, the applicant pool is open to all of the components and services. So even though you may select DTRA as your #1 choice and say Marine Corps as your #2, all of the services have access to the applicants as they make it to the semifinalist round. So there is a gate, so to speak, and then all of the applicants are available to all services to review and select.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we've run a little over and we are going to conclude this session. So we appreciate everybody for taking the time to join us today. Carl, are there any additional comments or closing remarks?
No, I'd just like to thank all of the participants who attended. My hope is that the information we provided to you is useful. We are going to send out a survey, and the way that we will learn how to improve the information that we share with our participants is by you telling us what was helpful and what was not. So please take a few minutes. It shouldn't take you more than 2 minutes, 3 minutes tops to complete the survey. But if you get a survey, please complete it because it will help us make our program better in the future. For our panelists, I'd like to thank you all for both your time and your commitment. If we are successful, it is because of your participation and the information you're willing to share with the participants. So to everyone, I will say thank you and good day.